A very warm welcome to another knowledge updation video on your YouTube channel CA Sansar. Notice on a deceased assessee is a highly litigated issue under income tax. At times, not just the assessee, even the tax practitioners are confused on how to approach the subject. Recently, a landmark judgment was passed by the Honorable Delhi High Court in Writ Petition Civil 3258 of 2020 in the case of Savita Kapila, legal heir of late Sri Mohinder Kaul Kapila versus Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax, Circle 43-1, Delhi, dated 16 July 2020. For a threadbare analysis of the judgment, issue-wise, discussing the arguments taken and the decisions relied by both the counsel for the assessee and revenue, and the inference drawn by the court on such arguments, we have with us a subject expert, Advocate Divyanshu Agarwal ji. A very warm welcome to you, sir. The dais is all yours.
Thank you so much, Neha, and thank you, Vivek ji and CA Sansar for giving me this opportunity to give this presentation on a recent very important judgment pronounced by Honorable Delhi High Court. Namaskar, viewers. So before I start the presentation, let us first go to the slides and to see what are the issues for consideration before Honorable Delhi High Court. There are around 7 issues before Honorable Delhi High Court. So, the first issue, which was for consideration before Delhi High Court, was whether alternative statutory remedy does operate as a bar to maintainability of a writ petition where the order or notice or proceedings are wholly without jurisdiction. If the AO had no jurisdiction to initiate assessment proceedings, the mere fact that subsequent orders have been passed would render the challenge to jurisdiction infrastructures. This was the first issue for consideration before Honorable Delhi High Court. Another issue is whether the jurisdictional requirement under Section 148 of the Act of Service of Notice was fulfilled in the present case. Third issue, whether the proceedings against the petitioner are barred by limitation as per Clause B, subsection 1 of Section 149 of the Act. Fourth issue, whether Section 159 of the Act is applicable to the present case. Fifth issue, whether there is any statutory requirement imposing an obligation upon legal heirs to intimate the death of the assessee. Next issue, whether Section 292B of the Act has been applicable to notice issued to a dead person. And last issue was whether Section 292BB of the Act is applicable to a legal representative. These are very important issues which was for consideration before Honorable High Court. So before we go to a legal issues, let us first see what are the facts of the case to understand the matter properly. Coming to the point, the name of the case is Savita Kapila, legal heir of late Sri Mohinder Kaul Kapila versus Assistant Commissioner Income Tax, Circle 43-1, Delhi. Writ petition civil number 3258/2020. This decision was pronounced by Honorable High Court on 16th July 2020. This was heard on a video hearing by the Honorable Court. So, let us quickly see the facts of the case. In this matter, the information was received by the AO that in financial year 11-12, the assessee had cash deposit of INR 10 lakh in his bank account, time deposits of INR 11 lakh 5,586, and receipt of INR 25,414 as per Form 26 AS. It was noticed that no return had been filed and the source of aforesaid deposits and receipts remain unexplained and escaped assessments. So after completing the reason recording process and all these procedures before issuing 148, the AO has issued 148 on 31st March 2019 for the assessment year 2012-2013, which was the last date of limitation in the name of the assessee. Interesting point in this case is the assessee had already been expired on 21st December 2018, which is the date prior to the date of issue of notice. So the 148 notice was issued in the name of the assessee, who is in this case is late Shri Mohinder Paul Kapila. And the deceased assessee is survived by 2 sons and 2 daughters. Interestingly, at that time in the records of the assessing officer, there was an address in the Delhi. So they tried to serve the notice on that address, but the impugned notice could not and was never served upon deceased assessee on the last known address, which was there with the department. So interestingly, AO again issued some other notices on 22nd August 2019, like AO has issued 143 subsection 2, 142 subsection 1 on 27th August 2019 and 18 September 2019 to the deceased assessee on the same address, but again, it was never served. On 10th October 2019, a show cause notice was issued to the deceased assessee to explain why penalty under section 271 subsection 1 clause B of the Act should not be imposed for failure to comply with notice issued under subsection 1 of section 142. So they have issued a show cause notice on the same address at Delhi in the name of the deceased assessee. But another thing, never served. So finally, the AO in this case has issued a notice under section 133 subsection 6 to the bank of the assessing officer. So interestingly, in this case, the bank of the deceased assessee had confirmed to the assessing officer that the address which was there with the department is also there with the banker only. Same address they have. But based from the bank, they have traced a telephone number of the assessee, which was not there with the department. And after tracing the telephone number, then for the first time, they get in touch with the legal representative of the assessee. In this case is Miss Savita Kapila, who is a daughter of late Shri Mohinder Paul Kapila. So from that, after calling Miss Kapila, the AO came to know that the assessee has already been expired, died on 21st December 2018. So this was confirmed for the first time, undisputed facts, that the assessee had passed away on 21st December 2018 prior to the date of issue of 148 notice. Friends, this is very important because we are going to discuss about section 159. So in this case, the notice has been issued, but the assessee has already been expired prior to the date of issue of notice. But after the discussion with the AO, the deceased assessee's daughter has uploaded for the first time the death certificate of the petitioner on the death certificate of the deceased assessee on the e-portal of the Income Tax Department on 15th October 2019. That's all, nothing else. They have only uploaded the death certificate. So after that, AO passed an order on 21st November 2019, whereby penalty under clause B subsection 1 of section 271 of the Act was imposed upon deceased assessee through legal hair for non-compliance of notice issued to deceased assessee. Interestingly, all the notices was issued in the name of the deceased assessee, not in the name of the legal representative of the deceased assessee. So before, as per the rule, before passing an order, they have issued a final show cause notice on 25th November 2019 to the assessee through legal hair, directing to file the return and produce relevant documents by 28th November 2019. Obviously, no compliance by the legal representative in that case also. So before passing an order, because the AO is aware that the assessee is already died, so instead of passing an order in the name of the assessee, they have transferred the proceeding to the PAN of the legal heir of the deceased assessee's daughter, Savita Kapila, on 27 December, and same date they have transferred the proceeding in the PAN of the legal heir. And interestingly, they have also passed the impugned assessment order in her name only as legal representative. So interesting fact in this case is 148 notice was issued in the name of deceased SSE. All the subsequent 142 subsection 1, 143 subsection 2 notices was issued in the name of deceased SSEs. Everything was in the name of deceased SSE. Even 271 subsection 1 clause B was issued in the name of deceased SSE. But before passing an AO order, they have transferred it in the name of the PAN and they have passed an order in the name of the legal representative. So very interesting. In my name, I don't have a 148 notice, but I have 148. I have 147 read with 143 order in my name, but I don't have 148 in the name of legal heir. This is the facts of the case. So based on that, the petition in this case has moved to Honorable Delhi High Court and filed a writ. So in this case, the writ petition has been filed seeking a direction to the respondent to quash the notice dated 31st March 2019, which is 148 notice, which was issued to the deceased SSE under section 148 of the Act, and all consequential proceedings emanating therefrom, including orders dated 21st November and 27 December 2019 passed by the respondent. So friends, you see the petitioner has moved a writ only after passing of an order in this case. Maximum cases you find that after passing a notice only many of the SSEs they challenge the notice in the before the Honorable High Court. This time they have challenged this thing after passing an order. So this was also one of the ground and the issue taken by the respondent, which is the revenue at the time of pleading before Honorable High Court. Now let us see what are the contentions of the petitioner in this case. So petitioner has relied on one of the jurisdictional high court judgment in the case of Brahma Prakash versus ITO, and has taken the contention before Honorable High Court that the impugned notice under section 148 of the Act was issued subsequent to the death of the SSE. So hence the statutory requirement of service under section 148 of the Act had not been fulfilled. First pleading which was taken before the Honorable High Court, relying on the jurisdictional Delhi High Court judgment only. Next argument, next contention which was taken by the petitioner was notice under section 148 of the Act was not issued to the petitioner. That's the point. They have passed an order in the name of the petitioner, which is the legal representative, one of the legal representative, not the legal, one of the legal representative of the deceased SSE. No notice was issued or any on other legal representative because SSE has 2 sons, 2 daughters. Third, proceedings were simply transferred to the petitioner PAN, White, letter dated 27th December 2019, ignoring the fact, very important, ignoring the fact that there were other legal heirs of the deceased SSE. There were 4 legal heirs of the deceased SSE, not 1. So they have ignored the fact and they have just, because that limitation was coming and they need to pass an order within the time limitation of 31st December, so have transferred the PAN and passed an order in the name of the only one legal representative. This was the next contention was the one of the contention taken by the petitioner was proceeding against the petitioner were barred by limitation by said date, that is 27 December 2019 as per section 149 subsection 1 clause B of the Act. This was another one of the contention which was taken by the petitioner. So let us see what does section 149 subsection 1 clause B talks about. So friends, section 149 talks about time limit for notice. What is the time limitation of issuing a notice? So subsection 1 says no notice under section 148 shall be issued for the relevant assessment year. Now we read clause B. If 4 years but not more than 6 years have elapsed from the end of the relevant assessment year, unless the income chargeable to tax which has escaped assessment amounts to or is likely to amount to 1 lakh rupees or more for that year. So one of the contention which was taken by the petitioner in this case is that the proceeding against the petitioner were barred by limitation as per section 149 subsection 1 clause B. Next contention which was taken, and relying on a judgment of a jurisdictional Delhi High Court in the case of Vipin Walia versus ITO, the petitioner has taken a pleading that 159 of the Act would not apply to the facts of the present case. Now question comes, what does 159 talks about? Let me come to 159. Friends, 159 comes into chapter 15, liability in special cases, category A, legal representatives. So 159 talks about legal representatives, wherein subsection 1 says, where a person dies, his legal representatives shall be liable to pay any sum which the deceased would have been liable to pay if he had not died in the like manner and to the same extent as the deceased. So what the petitioner's pleading was that they are not falling into this section 159. These were the certain contention of the petitioner before the Honorable High Court. Now let us see what are the various contentions of the revenue in this case. Revenue has raised a lot of contention. First contention which was raised by revenue in this case is the present writ petition ought not to be entertained as it had been preferred after the completion assessment proceeding. So the point which was taken by the revenue was, as they have already moving the writ after the completion assessment proceeding, so they have another, there is an alternative remedy which is available with the department, which is the revenue. So the Revenue Standing Council has mentioned that the petitioner should be directed to agitate the issues raised herein before the appellate commissioner under section 246A of the Act, which is the commissioner appeal. So this was the first contention of the respondent, which is the revenue. Now second contention was which related to section 159, which we just talked about, which talks about legal representative. So they have mentioned that in section 159, the legal representative is liable for the liabilities of the deceased assessee, and therefore it cannot be said that the present assessment proceedings are null and void. So it was incumbent upon the legal representative of the late assessee to intimate about his death to the revenue. So third contention which was taken by the revenue in this case, which is also one of the issue for consideration before Honorable Court, is whether is it the responsibility of the legal representatives of the deceased assessee to intimate about the death of the deceased assessee to the revenue? Is it bounded? Is there any statutory provision? Is there any based on which they can come to a point? So this was also one of the contention taken by the respondent of the revenue in this matter. Fourth, another contention taken by the revenue in this case is that the facts of the present case were distinguishable from the cases relied upon by the petitioner, wherein courts had caused notices sent to non-existent entities, as in all such cases, the information of such non-existence was available with the AO prior to the issuance of notice. So another contention taken by the revenue in this case, that this is the case different from the facts from this judgment, and they have relied on the judgment, famous judgment pronounced by Honorable Supreme Court in the month of in 2019 on Maruti Suzuki India Limited, wherein the issue involved was non-existence of the entity amalgamated, which the assessing officer was aware, and that issue was related to section 143 subsection 2. Another contention which was taken by the revenue in this case is that the court can set aside, as an alternative argument they have taken this contention. As an alternative argument, they have relied on one of the Jharkhand High Court decision in the case of Srimati Sudha Prasad versus Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, which was reported in 275 ITR 135. It was submitted that as an alternative, the court can set aside the proceedings for de novo assessments instead of quashing the same. So in the writ, the petitioner has requested the Honorable Court for quashing the proceeding. So as an alternative argument, the revenue has taken the position that the court can set aside the proceeding for de novo assessments instead of quashing the same on account of revenue's bona fide mistake, since notice was issued to a dead person out of ignorance of assessee's death. which was not intimated to the revenue. So they have taken a position pleading also that they can, if the Honorable Court deems fit, they can set aside the proceeding for de novo assessments. Now, after this, another contention taken by the revenue is on section 292B. Friends, let us first read 292B. What does 292B talks about before coming to the contention? So, 292B title is return of income, etc., not to be invalid on certain grounds. So, I'm just reading section. Section 292B talks about no return of income, assessment, notice, summon, or other proceedings furnished or made or issued or taken or purported to have been furnished or made or issued or taken in pursuance of any of the provisions of this act shall be invalid or shall be deemed to be invalid merely, very important, merely by reason of any mistake, defect, or omission in such return of income, assessment, notice, summon, or other proceeding if such return of income, assessment, notice, summon, or other proceeding is in substance and effect in conformity with or according to the intent and purpose of this act. So this was section 292B. So coming to the revenue contention is that they have submitted that even if there was any defect in the notice, obviously the notice is in the name of the deceased assessee. So they have taken a contention that it would be bona fide curable defect under section 292B of the act, and they have relied on the Honorable Delhi High Court jurisdictional Delhi High Court judgment in the case of Skylight Hospitality LLP versus Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax. Simultaneously, after 292B, interestingly, another contention they have taken, they have touched in section 292BB. Let us see what does 292BB talks about. The title of section is Notice Deemed to be Valid in Certain Circumstances. I'm reading section 292BB, where an assessee has appeared in any proceeding or cooperated in any inquiry relating to an assessment or reassessment, it shall be deemed that any notice under any provision of this act which is required to be served upon him has been duly served upon him in time in accordance with the provisions of this act, and such assessee shall be precluded from taking any objection in any proceeding or inquiry under this act that the notice was not served upon him or not served upon him in time or served upon him in an improper manner. The proviso which was there with section is talks about provided that nothing contained in this section shall apply where the assessee has raised such objection before the completion of such assessment or reassessment. This is section 292BB. Let us see what is the submission of the revenue in this regard. It was submitted that the proviso to section 292BB of that would be attracted to the present case, and the petitioner would be prevented from questioning the validity of the notice since she had cooperated in any inquiry relating to reassessment by uploading the death certificate of the deceased assessee. So they are saying that after the discussion, the petitioner has uploaded the death certificate of the deceased assessee on the e-filing portal of the deceased assessee's account. So they have participated in the 292BB. So these were the few of the contentions of the respondent. Now, after this contention of the respondent, the petitioner has filed a rejoinder, and based on the rejoinder submission, let us see what are the arguments and the contention of the respondent in the rejoinder. So, The contention taken by the petitioner in the rejoinder was there was no statutory obligation upon the legal heirs to intimate the death of the assessee to the respondent. This was the pleading of the petition, that there is no statutory obligation. Number two, it was submitted that the AO had no jurisdiction to initiate the reassessment proceeding, and passing of subsequent order would not render the jurisdictional challenge infrastructus. And next contention was, it was also contended that the petitioner had merely uploaded the death certificate of the deceased assessee online and had in fact never filed a return on behalf of the deceased assessee nor submitted to the jurisdiction of the AO, and had not even waived the requirement of section 148 of the Act. So consequently, according to him, provision of section 292BB of the Act were not attracted to the present case, relying on Rajendra Kumar Sehgal versus ITO, Delhi High Court judgment. Now, these were the contention of the petitioner and the revenue respondent before the Honorable Delhi High Court. Now, these were the issues for consideration before the Honorable Delhi High Court, friends, which we have already taken. Let us read one by one the issues. So, first issue for the consideration of for Honorable Delhi High Court is whether alternative statutory remedy does not operate as a bar to maintainability of a writ petition where the order or notice or proceedings are wholly without jurisdiction. If the AO had no jurisdiction to initiate assessment proceeding, the mere fact that subsequent orders have been passed would render the challenge to jurisdiction infrastructus. This is the first issue. This was contention raised by the revenue, the respondent before the court. So let us see what is the first issue. The Honorable High Court decision in regard to issue number 1. It is well settled law that an alternative statutory remedy does not operate as a bar to maintainability of a writ petition in at least 3 contingencies, namely, where the writ petition has been filed for the enforcement of any of the fundamental rights, or where there has been violation of the principle of natural justice, or where the order or notice or proceedings are wholly without jurisdiction, or where the vice of an act is challenged. So the Honorable Court has relied on the decision reported in SCC in the case of Whirlpool Corporation versus Registrar of Trademark, Mumbai and others. Now, the fact that an assessment order has been passed and it is open to challenge by way of an appeal, which was the argument of the revenue, that they can go and file an appeal before CIT appeal under section 246A. So the fact that an assessment order has been passed and it is open to challenge by way of an appeal does not denude the petitioner of its right to challenge the notice for assessment if it is without jurisdiction, which is in the present case. If the assumption of jurisdiction is wrong, the assessment order passed subsequently would have no legs to stand. Obviously, the assessee death is prior to the date of issue of notice. So there is no, as per the Honorable Court, it cannot stand actually. If the notice goes, so does the order of assessment. So it is a tried law that if the AO had no jurisdiction to initiate the assessment proceeding, the mere fact that subsequent orders have been passed would not render to challenge to jurisdiction infrastructures. So the Honorable Court relied on Calcutta Discount Company Limited versus Income Tax Officer, Company District 1, Calcutta and another, reported in AIR SC 372. So this first decision was in favor. The first decision, the contention raised by the revenue was the Honorable Court has given a negative finding by giving a detailed order in this case. That yes, they can pass and they can go for an alternative remedy as well as they can file a writ. Issue number 2. Let us see, friends, what is issue number 2? Whether the jurisdictional requirement under section 148 of the Act of Service or Notice was fulfilled in the present case. As all you are aware about the facts that the notice has been issued in the name of the deceased SSE and it has not been served. So whether the jurisdictional requirement was fulfilled or not. Let us see what the Honorable Court has given a decision. In the present case, the notice dated 31st March 2019 under Section 148 of the Act was issued to the deceased SSE after the date of his death, and thus inevitably the said notice could never have been served upon him. Consequently, the jurisdictional requirement under Section 148 of the Act of service of notice was not fulfilled in the present case. Now, the Honorable Court says the sine qua non for acquiring jurisdiction to reopen an assessment is that such notice should be issued in the name of the correct person. This requirement of issuing notice to a correct person and not to a dead person is not merely a procedural requirement, but is a condition precedent to the impugned notice being valid in law. This is very important. This was, they have taken a reference from the Bombay High Court decision in the case of Sumit Balakrishnan Gupta versus Assistant Commissioner Income Tax, and another Gujarat High Court decision in the case of Chandresh Bhai Jayanti Bhai Patel versus Income Tax Officer. Now, issue number 3. As we have already read the Bare Act, what does Clause B, subsection 1, 149 says? Time limit for issue of notice. So the issue which was for consideration before Honorable Court is whether the proceedings against the petitioner abide by limitation. This was a pleading by the contention taken by the petitioner. In the present case, no notice under Section 148 of the Act was ever issued to the petitioner, which is the daughter of the deceased SSE, the legal representative of the deceased SSE, during the period of limitation, and simply proceedings were transferred to the PAN of the petitioner, who happens to be one of the 4 legal heirs of the deceased SSE, by letter dated 27th December 2019. Therefore, the assumption of jurisdiction qua the petitioner for the relevant assessment year is beyond the period prescribed, and consequently the proceeding against the petitioner barred by limitation in accordance with Clause B, subsection 1 of Section 149 of the Act. So one of the decision which was relied by, friends, I'm just coming to the previous slide. There was one decision which was relied by the respondent, which is the revenue in this case, is the Jharkhand High Court decision, the case of Srimati Sudha Prasad versus Chief Commissioner Income Tax, wherein as an alternative pleading, they have requested the Honorable Court can consider the request for setting aside the proceeding for de novo assessment instead of caution. So let us see what the court's view in this. In Srimati Sudha Prasad, as mentioned by revenue, the petitioner had challenged the assessment order and demand notice. In that case, the petitioner had only challenged the assessment order and demand notice only. They have never challenged the non-issuance of notice, nor the issue of proceeding be barred by limitation. This issue was not raised before in the case of Srimati Sudha Prasad before Honorable Jharkhand High Court, but this issue is there before Honorable Delhi High Court. So based on that, the Honorable Court has seen that the judgment is not applicable because it is the fact of the present case is different from the fact of that case. Now, next point. As we have already discussed, Section 159. 159 talks about the liability of a legal representatives. So, issue number 4 says whether Section 159 of the Act is applicable to the present case. This is very important, friends. Every issue is important because these understanding and the interpreted the way the department has put in their contention, the way the petitioner has put in their contention, how the Honorable High Court has analyzed the judgments relied by both the sides, and how they have come to a conclusion. That is very important, which helps us in our own cases before any of the forums in presenting our submissions and arguments. So I'm again coming back to the issue number 4, whether Section 159 of the Act is applicable to the present case. Let us see what the Honorable High Court has analyzed and decided in this part. Section 159 of the Act applies to a situation where proceedings are initiated or pending against the SC when he is alive, and after his death, the legal representative steps into the shoes of the deceased assessee. Since that is not the present factual scenario, because in my case, the deceased assessee was already died long back, 3 months back in December 2018, and the notice was issued on March 2019. So Section 159 of the Act does not apply to my case. And they have relied on two judgments. One of the judgment reported in ITR also by Madras High Court in the case of Alamelu Virappan versus the Income Tax Officer, Non-Corporate Ward, Chennai, as well as the Honorable Delhi High Court judgment in the case of Rajendra Kumar Sehgal versus ITU, wherein the same position was taken. So issue number 4 is also in favor of the petitioner. That under 159, this case does not apply to 159 matters. Let us see what is issue number 5. Whether there is any statutory requirement imposing an obligation upon legal heirs to intimate the death of the deceased. This is very important. Whenever we represent a matter, always every AO, every learned CIT appeal talks about, have you intimated to the department? So the question comes, does any statutory provision says that I'm supposed to submit the document in advance? What is the provision in that sense? So this was an issue before the Honorable Court. In the absence of statutory provision, it is difficult to cast a duty upon the legal representative to intimate the factum of death of an SC to the Income Tax Department. After all, there may be cases where the legal representatives are estranged from the deceased SC, or the deceased SC may be bequeathed his entire wealth to a charity. So consequently, whether PAN record was updated or not, or whether the department was made aware by the legal representative or not, is irrelevant. And the judgment, and they have relied on Madras High Court judgment in the case of Alamelu Virappan versus the Income Tax Officer, Non-Corporate Ward 22, Chennai. In the absence of statutory provision, it is difficult to cast a duty upon the legal representative to intimate the factum of death of an SSE to the Income Tax Department. So again, during the contention, during the argument by the respondent, they have relied on one of the judgment in the case of Principal Commission Income Tax versus Maruti Suzuki India Limited, which was pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court last year in 2019, reported in 416 ITR 613. So they have seen, the Honorable High Court has seen that the facts of the case were altogether different in that is more related to Section 170 of the Act instead of Section 259. That is more related to Section 170. So, however, the said judgment nowhere states that there is an obligation. So, in Maruti Suzuki, the said judgment nowhere states that there is an obligation upon the legal representatives to inform the Income Tax Department about the death of the SSE or to surrender the PAN of the deceased SSE. So, consequently, the legal heirs under no statutory obligation to intimate the death of the SSE to the revenue. So this issue was also in favor of petitioner and against the respondent. Now let us see what is the next issue. Issue number 6, Section 292B, whether Section 292B of the Act has been applicable to a notice issued to a dead person. Let us see. Okay. So issuance of notice upon a dead person and non-service of notice does not come under the ambit of mistake, defect, or omission. So consequently, Section 292B of the Act does not apply to the present case. The respondent revenue has relied on the judgment of Honorable Delhi High Court, which was reported in 405 ITR 296, pronounced in 2018, in the case of Skylight Hospitality LLP versus Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax. So they have distinguished the judgment. So what is important in that case? Just wanted to read it. In the factual context, in Skylight Hospitality, the appellant, having received the notice, had filed without prejudice reply and letter dated April 11, 2017. They had objected to the notice being issued in the name of the company which had ceased to exist. However, the reading of the said letter indicates that they have understood and were aware that the notice was for them. It was relied and dealt with by them in the case of Skylight Hospitality. SLP was dismissing while by the Honorable Supreme Court, and at the time of dismissing an SLP, the Honorable Supreme Court has observed that in the peculiar facts of this case, we are convinced that wrong name given in the notice was merely a clerical error which could be corrected under Section 292B of the Income Tax Act. So finally, they have distinguished the facts of those Skylight Hospitality was different from the facts of our case. So anyhow, the Honorable High Court has seen that 292B of the Act has been held to be inapplicable vis-a-vis notice issued to a dead person. In case of in the case of Rajendra Kumar Sehgal, Chandraesh Bhai Jayantilal Patel, and the case of Alambi Virappan cases, one Delhi High Court, one Bombay High Court, and one Madras High Court. In all these cases, and interestingly, in all these three cases, they have discussed the judgment of Skylight Hospitality, which was pronounced by Honorable Delhi High Court. And all these cases, the revenue has relied on the same judgment in all these three cases. Last issue number 7. So this issue number 6 was also in favor of petitioner and against the respondent, which is revenue. Whether Section 292BB of the Act is applicable to a legal representative. So Section 292BB of the Act is applicable to an assessee and not to a legal representative. In the present case, one of the legal heirs of the deceased assessee, that is a petitioner, had neither cooperated in the assessment proceedings nor filed return or waived the requirement of Section 148 of the Act 1961 or submitted to jurisdiction of the AO. She had not done anything. Only she has uploaded the death certificate of the deceased assessee on the e-filing portal of the deceased assessee. Nothing else. Of the Income Tax Department, the account of deceased assessee. Nothing else. So again, in this cases, the applicability of Section 292BB of the Act has been held to be attracted to an assessee and not to a legal representative. So what the court have seen, that this particular section is only applicable in the case of an assessee and not to the legal representative. So they have relied on the decision of Commissioner of Income Tax 8 Chennai versus Shri M. Hemantan 216-4 TMI 258 pronounced by Honorable Madras High Court and Rajendra Kumar Sehgal versus ITO pronounced by Honorable Delhi High Court. So interestingly, and the concluding remark, the Honorable High Court has, I have just taken the same para as it is from the Honorable High Court order. So they have concluded by saying that the arguments advanced by the respondents are no longer res integra and have been consistently rejected by different high courts, including this jurisdictional court. In view of the consistent, uniform, and settled position of law, to accept the submissions of the revenue or respondent would amount to unsettling the settled law. So based on that, the Honorable Delhi High Court has relied on the judgment pronounced by Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Maruti Suzuki Limited, and they have taken a very they have picked a para from that order, which mentioned that we find no reason to take a different view. This para was there in the Maruti Suzuki judgment, which was there quoted by the Honorable Delhi High Court. They have taken the extract from that judgment. There is a value which the court must abide by in promoting the interest of certainty in tax litigation. The view which has been taken by this court in relation to the respondent for assessment year 11-12 must, in our view, be adopted in respect of the present appeal which relates to assessment year 12-13. Not doing so will only result in uncertainty and displacement of settled expectations. There is a significant value which must attach to observing the requirement of consistency and certainty. Individual affairs are conducted and business decisions are made in the expectation of consistency, uniformity, and certainty. To detract from those principles is neither expedient nor desirable. So finally, in view of the aforesaid, the Honorable Delhi High Court has allowed the writ petition and impugn notice dated 31st March 2019, which was the 148 notice, and all consequential orders, proceedings passed thereto, including orders, are quashed by the Honorable Delhi High Court. So this was, friends, very important judgment pronounced by Honorable Delhi High Court. This helps a lot in lot of our cases. And very many of the new issues which was before the Honorable High Court, they have given an answer that whether am I responsible to intimate to the department? Is there any statutory provision? Does 292B applies in my case as in the case of the deceased SSE? Does 292BB applicable to the case of deceased SSE? Does section 159 applicable in the case of deceased SSE? In those scenario wherein the notice was impugned notice was issued after the date of the death of the deceased SSE. So whether in spite of alternative remedy, can a petitioner can pursue and file a writ petition? Many of the interesting issues were there before Honorable Delhi High Court, and they have given a detailed finding relying on many of the judgments. And I hope this judgment is very useful and helpful for all our viewers, and they can take the full advantage and the benefit of this judgment. But yes, I have a request. Please see the facts of your case, because every case is different factually. So you have to see the facts of your case, and then you have to see the facts of the case which was before the Honorable Delhi High Court before applying the ratio of this judgment. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Over to you, Neha.
I'm sure all my co-professionals would agree that deciphering a judgment is no less than an art, and only an artist with a keen eye can bring out the best picture. Our endless thanks to you, sir, for patiently bringing out all the fine nuances of such an important judgment. It's always
so
a
much,
pleasure
Neha.
having
Thank
you
you.
with us. To all our viewers, do subscribe to our YouTube channel CS Ansar for more such informative videos.